Welcome back to the Doug Karns program here on All Noise Radio. I am Doug Karns. I just played for you in the last break how the communists are now supporting the Occupy movement, and they are actively joining the protests, which if I was an average protester who didn't believe in communism or socialism or any of this radical stuff, I would be like, why are they supporting me? Should I be questioning why I'm here? Which I'm hoping some will, but I don't see anybody waking up. On my Facebook, at least, I don't see anybody waking up to that fact. And I also told you about the Wall Street Journal poll that they did with the protesters, how a third of them say violence is okay with this movement. So, again, if I was an average protester, would I be like, yeah, no, I agree with violence and communism. Yeah, I stand for that. Wake up, people. Just wake up. All right, so let's move on. Actually, before I move on, let me touch on, have you heard about these hikers that got released from Iran, who were captured for years under espionage charges, which they didn't really have any evidence for, but, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad wouldn't hold them anyways. They came home, right? They were freed, which is good. I'm glad, yeah. And then they joined the Occupy Oakland movement, and they give a little speech here, which, you know me, I'll comment on after it's done. So let's listen to it.
Back and see our country coming back to life and see the city coming to life like this is really, really a wonderful homecoming. Now that we're out, we're free, and we're speaking, we're here talking to you guys, and
I remembered hearing about a friend who was flooding the inbox of the Iranian president with every single news story that came up about our case. And somehow that story of her flooding the inbox got through to me in prison, and it greatly uplifted me. Just some morsel of support means so much to the people behind bars.
And anything that Shane and Josh and I can do to lend our support, to use the voice that we have to help people that don't have a voice, it is a huge privilege, and I'm so incredibly grateful to be able to do it.
All right, so they are supporting this because they think they're empowering people to have a voice. Well, if you understand the Constitution, our voice is within our vote, and we vote leaders into Congress. Now, the more years that go by, the more obsolete we make them, because the president has so much power now. But that is our voice, and we need to get back to that voice. None of this uprising and collapsing the system stuff, that is not our voice. And honestly, you should come back and be like, wow, a big government that held us captured for no reason and had no evidence against us, you should be coming back and praising how awesome America is, and we don't detain you for no reason. That should be your message. Like, praise the freedom that we have over here, not go against it. That's ridiculous. And I find that very offensive because nobody understands freedom. A lot of people that are born here, and young people like me, don't understand how good we have it over here. I mean, we are the wealthiest 1% of the world. I fall in the wealthiest 4% of the world. So I have it good here. I have the freedom. People in Iran and China and Venezuela, Cuba, they don't have it as good. They have to worry about being told what to do, not being able to succeed. The only people that can succeed in those countries are the hierarchies, which is just so funny because these protesters on Wall Street, they're against the hierarchy system, but then they want communism, which is all hierarchy. That's all it is. It just doesn't make sense. So, like, why doesn't anybody ask them, what's the difference? And listen, again, we have been in crony capitalism for the last 100 years. Between tax loops for the big businesses. Look at GE and Jeffrey Immelt. He is the CEO of GE, and he pays or GE pays zero taxes, zero tax dollars. And they are a worldwide corporation, which brings in tons and tons of money. Oh, and it happens to be that Jeffrey Immelt is on the President's Economic Advisory Board. So, is there any kind of correlation there? Like, why aren't we standing outside his house and demanding him pay taxes? And why aren't we questioning the president about that? And then it goes back to, again, why aren't we questioning the schools that are charging these outrageous tuitions? Why doesn't anybody say anything about that? That they are the people you should be protesting, not the banks. And again, like I said, if the banks have done something wrong, then let's investigate them. Let's go after them. Let's take them to the court system. That's why we have the court system. This is just politics. And sadly, the politics are being played to collapse the system. If you remember the audio I played with Stephen Lerner back in the spring, he had a entire plan to collapse the system. And it was this. People stop paying for their mortgages, go after the banks, pull your money out of the banks. This is his plan. And he is a major union boss. All these unions are involved. And I hate to say it, but the big unions are communist in nature. Not these small little local unions. They're being controlled by the bigger ones. But if you're a union worker, you need to start paying attention at your union meetings and start asking questions. Because these guys are lining up with the communists. All right, so let's play this clip from Fox News, which Geraldo is interviewing some protesters on the street, and Charles Payne, who's a wealthy business guy, which, don't hate him. Don't hate him for being wealthy, because you'll understand that he didn't always have that wealth. And you'll hear Russell Simmons chime in, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Chanting, but in the commercial break, something interesting happened. Art Chiliotis, who represents organized labor with the Communications Workers of America, was kind of mad at Charles Payne. I didn't get why, aside from the fact that he's successful.
Well,
Russell Simmons thinks that was unfair, but go ahead.
Success occurs in a society because of the infrastructure of a society. Some people will excel.
No, success comes from the individual who has an idea and runs with it and makes money off of it. It doesn't come from the infrastructure. Wealth is created. It's not handed out. Actual bailouts and handouts are handed out by the government, but not wealth. Wealth is created. I mean, Bill Gates wasn't handed his multi-billion-dollar company. He earned it.
But we have to remember that there's a whole matrix of things that happens. For example, government really serves as a foundation upon which commerce, industry, and civil society is built.
But what does that have to do with Charles?
Well, Charles's individual success had a lot to do with the fact that that infrastructure was in place that gave him the opportunity to excel. And he should not, and too many...
The only infrastructure that gave him the opportunity to excel is freedom. His choice to do what he wanted to do. Don't give me this crap that roads, telephone lines, trains, all this infrastructure help him become a wealthy guy. It didn't. If anything, it probably hurt him because it takes taxes out of his money to pay for all that stuff. This infrastructure debate is the most ridiculous one I've ever heard. Because, first of all, everybody pays for that infrastructure, so everybody has the fair shot. It's not like Charles Payne was able to drive on I-95 when I wasn't allowed to. We're all allowed to drive on it. We all have the same infrastructure. So why is it unfair that he got to be wealthy off of it and you didn't? It's because you didn't have the idea. You didn't have maybe the work ethic or whatsoever. I mean, some of us are employees. That's fine. Some of us are bosses. That's great. Some of us are owners and CEOs. It's how the world works. Now, granted, I hope to God that nobody gets in those positions and has greed, because greed will destroy your heart and your soul. But again, it's their right to be that way. And show me where the banks went wrong. Show me where they broke the law, and I'll be right with you. Greed isn't against the law. Greed will actually destroy your company over time. Because, see, what people forget is that, like Rockefeller, where he started taking small oil companies out of business, everybody's like, "Oh, you can't do that. That's not fair. That's not fair." No, it is fair, as long as you're doing it the right way and outcompeting other companies. So if you're doing it the right way, you're fine. And everybody goes, "Well, if he has the monopoly on the oil industry, then he's just going to make so much money by jacking up the price, and nobody could afford it." Well, if nobody can afford the oil, then he's not making money. I mean, the free market sets itself up. If he's not bringing in any cash, say like he jacks, let's just in today's dollars, say Rockefeller was around, and he put the price of gasoline up to $10 a gallon, thinking like, "Oh wow, it only cost me $1.50 a gallon to create the gas, but I'll just charge him 10 and make all that money." Well, guess what? People aren't going to be taking they're not going to be buying cars, and they're not going to be putting gas in their tank, which means he's not going to be making as much money. So he's going to keep dropping the price until it gets to where the market, a lot of people are buying it, which would be, in today's terms, let's say $2.50. See, Teddy Roosevelt put in this monopoly legislation, which it doesn't make sense, because it takes away from the capitalist. Okay, I work for a tire company, and say we wipe out every single tire company in the country because we are just so good at service and so good at pricing that we are now a monopoly in the country. Well, guess what? If we're selling our tires way too expensive, people are going to start taking the bus, start taking their bikes, and start finding other modes of transportation, working closer to home. And then I'm going to be out of business because I'm not making any money because my tires are too expensive. The market always works itself out, whether you're a monopoly or not a monopoly. But anyways, that's a whole discussion for another day, because I'm fine with having antitrust laws and all that right now. But again, like I said, the market always works its way out. So for you to say that the infrastructure is what got Charles Payne, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and all these other companies their wealth, you're delusional, because we all have the same infrastructure. They just had better ideas than you and me, which is totally fine, because they just created Microsoft now employs almost 100,000 people. So they created 100,000 jobs. I mean, it's not that hard. The free market works, and these people are looking to destroy it. They're looking to take it down and make sure nobody's rich and nobody's poor, which eventually will bring down the lifestyle of America, because we live a very high standard of a lifestyle. Again, it goes back to the grades. If people are always getting C's in class, are they going to start studying and working hard? No. Which means it's just going to bring everybody else down, because the average is going to keep slipping and slipping and slipping. Because instead of getting C's now, everybody's getting D's, because less people are working hard because they know they can't get A's. And it's the same thing in the economic system. All right, we're up against a hard break. We'll be right back after this.